Thank you, Michelle. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for being on this call. We are recording it, so for those of you who need to leave at any point, we'll put a recording up, make it available as soon as we can, probably by early next week on our OFD Now webpage. But this, again, is really an opportunity to share what we've learned this year, to talk about resources, strategies, what we're doing in our Office of Formation and Discipleship moving forward, and really allow some time for networking and discussion. We know most of you have already been planning for next year. And so however this session can be helpful for you in your planning efforts, we want it to be, a resource to you. At the same time, we realize that, there's just so much we've been grappling with this year, and especially with our networking opportunities. We just felt like it'd be a great learning experience for us to be able to have this session, learn from you all, see what questions are on your minds too, and that'll help us as we're moving forward too. We have certain next steps we want to share with you, but we also want to keep learning from each other. I'm going to share my screen. And actually, I'm going to have Benny enable my screen sharing. Hey, Benny, can you do that? Okay. And everybody should be able to see my screen right now. So what we're going to do today is take a look at some updates from the Archdiocese and talk a bit about our vision and the Formation and Discipleship Office, and then move to look at parish catechesis and family life. And this will be an opportunity for our colleague Patrice Spiro will speak a bit more about applying family faith formation, whatever model you're using in catechesis right now, how to engage families more. And then we'll also have a panel presentation by a number of our PCLs here on the call. Thank you in advance, everybody, for participating in that, and then have some time for discussion. Our last part will just be looking at lessons learned and what we're planning for as we move into next year. And this will be small and large group discussion. And we'll break out at that point into smaller groups of about 5 or 6 of us to be able to share, and then resume in a large group discussion format and finish our meeting that way, to have some time to talk with each other. Okay, so from the perspective of where we are right now, updates and vision, this year has been quite a year, hasn't it? A lot of things that were unexpected. We look back at this time last year, and I think very few of us, if any of us, could have foreseen what was coming in the next week or so and how it would affect us for over a year to come. A lot of challenges, a lot of opportunities. I just want to reiterate something that hopefully we've been sharing throughout this year, but we can always say it more. Thank you to all of you for everything that you've done this year, for the sacrifices you've made. We know there's been a lot of suffering this year, a lot of unknowns. You've persevered in really remarkable ways. You've stayed faithful to the course, you've been creative, you've adapted in so many ways. So thank you to all our parish catechetical leaders and your teams and all our parishes out there. It's been a remarkable journey this year, and we've learned a ton from it and from you. Okay, so looking at what's available right now in terms of Archdiocesan updates and as it relates to COVID, I think everyone is aware of the memo that was updated from the Archbishop at the end of January, and then some of the updated guidance that came out with regards to ministries and activities early February. There's not a lot new that we have to share at this point. And part of that is because we're expecting an update from the governor very soon. You see that on March 7th, where we'll hear more information from the state in terms of what the expectations are, guidelines. And I presume that that's going to affect, what comes out next from the Archdiocese. I know our Catholic Schools Office is monitoring that closely and to see kind of what is coming. And then as it relates to even the dispensation from Mass, everything like that, I know the Archbishop has just basically put a pause button right now to await what's coming, from the governor, and then make decisions after that. So we don't really have much to share, when we look at summer or fall. It's more of a stay tuned. And so we'll just keep monitoring that And we'll use these calls to provide you, timely updates and in our memos. So hopefully we'll be ahead of the game compared to where we were last year, in terms of figuring out what the summer is going to look like and what the fall is going to look like. But take a look at the guidance that we have right now, if you haven't already, in terms of, those updates are not really anything new for us. It's some tweaks that were made with mask wearing, as well as gathering size, just to update our guidance from the end of last summer to make it in accordance with what schools have been doing since the fall, really. So, okay, so what are we looking at in terms of our Office of Formation and Discipleship? I want to just speak about the broader vision of where we are right now, where we're looking to go, and then focus it a bit more on our catechetical work and really renewing catechesis. So our vision in the office has been one to promote lifelong discipleship, and we want to continue to strengthen that. I think we all know that the parish and family are the two decisive social agents of evangelization. And so what we want to do in OFD is to continue to strengthen a mission-oriented, evangelization-centered vision that would look at two fundamental priorities: the renewal of our parishes and the renewal of our families. And we have a broad area of ministry support when it comes to our office, and a lot of different ministry areas that we serve. And that's not going to change, but we want to focus that a bit more in terms of the mission and really look at those areas of kind of parish life renewal and family life renewal moving forward, to help focus the ways that we support parish leaders and pastors and all our ministry leaders out there in the field. Now, when it comes to catechesis, the directory for catechesis that came out last year is very strong on the fact that catechesis has to be part of the renewal of the church and contributes to that renewal. And the directory talks about the pressing need to frame everything in terms of evangelization and puts catechesis very strongly within that framework as participating in the missionary transformation that the church is being called to right now. So we want to contribute to that. We want to support our parishes, our campus ministries, our schools, and taking next steps for this renewal of catechesis. And a big lens that we're looking at in OFD is to look at it through the lens of the evangelization of family life. And this is nothing new for us in a certain sense. We look back at our 2015 pastoral plan, and there, for those of you who were working in the Archdiocese at the time, you'll remember that the pastoral plan made very clear this need to take a fresh look at our catechetical program offerings, especially in light of the importance of families and homes when it comes to faith formation. And then it put these words down: we have been challenged by our clergy and faithful to focus on family catechesis, which will require us to rethink comprehensively how we support our parishes in passing on the faith. So that was very clear in our pastoral plan about this need to focus on family faith formation in a renewed way, as a way to help with the renewal of catechesis. And this is also responding to our new directory as well. The new directory speaks of the importance of family-centered catechesis, some of the challenges and struggles that we can find when trying to take next steps with that. And there's been understandably a lot of reasons why catechesis over the several decades was patterned more after a school classroom model. But we're being challenged to take next steps beyond that now, and to really rethink. Dan Salucci with the Catholic Leadership Institute this past December put together a video. Many of you have probably seen it. If not, I recommend it. The question of the video was, what if they don't come back? Speaking of COVID and how we should be kind of thinking of that question in our parishes. What if a good size of our community doesn't come back to church? Part of that video, he made the point, we can't deny that we've needed a dramatic paradigm shift with how we equip the domestic church to pass along the faith to the next generation. There's no better time than now. Certainly, this year of COVID has challenged us in so many ways, but it's also given us opportunities to pause, to rethink, to adapt, to be creative. And this is one of the reasons, with everything that we know about the call to evangelization, the call to really engage families in new ways. This is why we took the step to move forward with presenting Families Forming Disciples over the last year. Not only an approach to help parishes take next steps in family faith formation, but content that parishes could adapt and use. And we've had this focused goal this year: more families praying and encountering Jesus together and growing as disciples. So who's been using this, the Families Forming Disciples this year? So at least 20 parishes have been using or adapting Families Forming Disciples in the Archdiocese. And most of those parishes are actually planning to continue in some way into next year. And we know at least 40 parishes, so including those previous 20 parishes, are doing some type of intentional family faith formation in the Archdiocese. And this, in addition to that, at least 17 more parishes have expressed interest in starting some type of family faith formation, or they're interested in learning more about how they can adapt some more intentional family faith formation approaches into their existing initiatives and programs. That's a very high number of parishes. When you think about it, we're getting into at least half of our parishes that have expressed kind of moving forward in this area. I think that's something to I commend all of you that are taking next steps in doing that, because that's a really important sign of leadership and really being open to the Holy Spirit moving forward. So what are our next steps in OFD? We want to create new Families Forming Disciples session content for the next 2 years. We've gotten permission to do that from the Archbishop, basically to create a 2 to 3 year entry point for parishes that are interested in moving forward with a family faith formation approach, but it's at no cost to the parishes. So an easy entry point. We're going to continue our bi-monthly calls with PCLs and youth ministers, and we'll continue to monitor and communicate COVID updates for the summer and fall. Long term, we know we need to review and update our religion curriculum. It's 20 plus years now dated, and it's a serious item that is on the horizon for us, especially in collaboration with our Catholic schools. So that is going to need to be looked at seriously. Our certification also needs to be reviewed and updated. We want to reevaluate our ongoing formation opportunities as well. We're looking to continue our relationships with U-Dayton and U-Dallas, but also explore some other opportunities too, to provide more options for parish leaders and volunteers, and then certainly continue our networking and supporting of all parishes. And then, as most of you know, we've expanded the Atlanta Catechist Conference into a Southeast Catechist Conference for this year. We're collaborating with our province dioceses, so August 12th through the 15th is our Southeast Catechist Conference, and we'll continue to evaluate, what that means for future years, but we envision this to be something that we continue into the years. But in all these areas that we're working on, we want to just make sure that we're inspiring everything with a family evangelization and catechesis model. So without further ado, I'm going to invite my colleague Patrice now to go a little bit deeper into family faith formation and ways you can adapt it wherever you are in your parish model of catechesis. And then we'll move to our panel after that. Patrice.
Okay. Hey, everybody. Good morning. Right. So we're going to talk a little bit about parish catechesis moving forward and options for beginning to incorporate family initiatives, regardless of what kind of a format you're using. So, okay, so just recapping the nightmare that we've lived this year, although there were a lot of good things that came out of it. How did we as a diocese, or all the dioceses around the country, really respond to this PSR crisis? So there was a lot of, what are we going to do right now? Triage, adaptation, and creativity on the part of a lot of parishes. So some parishes just went online and we all learned new technical skills. And some took a hybrid approach. Some focused on having maybe those students that they were having coming for sacraments continue to come, and then kind of do more of a distanced or even just giving a textbook or some materials to families that were at home and hoping that they would do something, just because of the whole spacing issues. Every parish was different how they approached this. And then there were some parishes that took a pause because it was just a confusing time, didn't know how long this was going to last. And everybody's resources are different as well. And all of that is all good and all of that's okay. But let's make a plan now for moving forward and take advantage of what we've learned during this time. You know, John Roberto had, he's been more active now again, but he's always been active, but some of you will know him from the Lifelong Faith Associates. And one of the things that he said was one of the consequences of the pandemic's impact was really rediscovering the centrality, importance of the family and the home for our society and our church. And this quote actually was on the USCCB 2020. He wrote an article for the USCCB. And, you know, John has been working for years with family faith formation. Some of you tried it before and then it didn't work out. And so what we'd like to do is be supportive to you if you decide to delve into a whole program again. We want to be there to help you and support you. And if you just want to put your toe in the water and just try different types of techniques, and we'll talk about that during the school year, and just remain with your traditional format, we want to support you in that as well. It was just a lot easier for parishes that already had a faith formation program that was family centered to be able to adapt to this year, which of course makes a lot of sense. The whole world now is looking at family faith formation. So there were two things that we always said that we would do that were really good ideas. One of them was family faith formation models. We should do that, and we didn't. I mean, some did, but it wasn't too many of us. And we always said that we should use technology as an evangelization tool. So, and we didn't do that either, but now we've been forced to do both. So let's take what we've got this year and then make a plan for a vision moving forward. I don't think we want to go back to normal statistically. We were losing people. I know in our part of the country, we have people moving in demographically. So it might not feel like you're losing people, but actually we are statistically, there's a lot of research to prove that we are hemorrhaging Catholics. So, you know, we want to, it's time for a big shift in the way we minister. And instead of ministering to an individual child, we need to see that child within the context of the family, because all the data shows that that is the best way that his or her parents have the greatest impact on a child's faith formation. Now, we've been talking about this for a while, the 4 keys to practicing the faith. Again, this is from Lifelong Faith Associates, and this is up on our website. So for you to print off, and it's even on, I know we've got it under the Families Forming Disciples page as well at the beginning. Now these, regardless of what kind of program you have, these are 4 areas that you could integrate. Even if you integrated one of these areas this year, it is a step forward. Even for a classroom teacher in a regular Catholic school, if they integrated one of these 4 keys, they would be helping families. All the research shows that if families do these 4 things, that their children are more likely to continue practicing their faith in adulthood. And also, in addition to this, they also said that relationships, if a child has a good relationship with his parents, and as they are practicing their faith, that also contributes, which is logical. Andy, could you go back to that slide? I'm sorry. Okay, so just want to look at this. The caring conversations, the prayer and development, devotions and prayer, family rituals and traditions, and family service. These are 4 areas that we have intentionally integrated into the Families Forming Disciples program. But again, these are 4 areas that you can do, and I'm going to show you just a very brief example of that. And if anybody wants to have further conversation about that, I want to maintain my regular program, or I want to try just doing 1 or 2 things, please feel free to reach out to me after this. Okay, so we need a big shift in how we approach the child. So we should be approaching the child more of a person who's a member of a family. And we recognize that, yes, we're very good at catechizing, but we're never gonna be better than that child's parent. And then the role of the catechist is making a major shift. Anybody can look up any information on their phone. So even in regular schools, the role of the teacher is shifting because of that. And we need to look at that, and that's an awesome resource that we have now. But the catechist is more than just someone who provides content information. Now it's someone that will facilitate caring conversations, stories about faith, someone that sees themselves hopefully as someone who's accompanying the family of the child, looking at things more holistically, instead of just a teacher that teaches the content and leaves. We're looking for, people that are really living their faith. They can actively model that for families, praying for families and maybe hopefully with families. And that catechist understands that as someone who's accompanying them, they're making a safe space for families to have these conversations, to grow closer to God. So there's a lot of ways to do family faith formation, and these are just a few. So starting with liturgical, that's what Families Forming Discipleship was this year. We followed the liturgical calendar, and it wasn't a light type of a program. It has a lot of depth and good Catholic content. And again, we will conclude that next year as well, but our focus will be sacred scripture. But we are going to continue to include the liturgical calendar and living the liturgical calendar, because that's our Catholic life. That's how we live it. Some parishes do seasonal family gatherings, maybe do something at Advent and something at Lent. Fantastic. Some have topical. So you gather the parents, more than just that parent meeting that you have for sacraments, but maybe having something that's more in depth. I know some of you already do this, and that's where we want to have an opportunity after this to hear from you and to share these ideas. Some of you have a meeting where the parents come in for a week one, and you talk to the parents and you tell the parents about their role as being a catechist, and you treat them as a co-catechist and give them the materials that they then go home and work with their children over the next 3 weeks. So that 1 week, once a month parent family gathering at the church, and then 3 weeks at home. There's the parish directed home study, homeschooling, and just an annual family event. So these are some of the ways, just in just a little slide here to show some of the things that you could do. And this is just a real brief thing. And I'm sure that you could come up with a lot of better ideas. And I know that you're super creative. And when you all start talking to each other and sharing, you've got fantastic ideas. So caring conversations, you can see the picture in the middle there. A little thing you can do if you're in a regular classroom model, just to help that family conversation to begin, is to have every child have a journal, write a question in a journal that has to do with that parent's faith experience. And so, do you remember your own you remember your confirmation or your first communion? What did that day mean to you? And then have the parent write their story. And then the key to all of this is then that comes back to you so that someone has seen it. There's that show opportunity. Maybe they video record themselves, but have that journal where there's this sharing of the faith stories in the family. They can ask grandma and grandpa. There's all kinds of things that can be done. What's your favorite saint? We did a lot of these things within every lesson in Families Forming Disciples. So you want to make spaces where they can share their faith stories within the home. So they don't have to be theological experts, but they can share different moments in their life when they knew that God was present, different things that they know, situations that they felt God helped them. All these things are questions that you can come up with a lot more, I'm sure, that you could incorporate into a journal that goes back and forth, asking questions, answering questions. That's a nice keepsake too for the family. Family devotions and prayer. This year, the first thing we started off with was asking families to create a home altar or a prayer corner in their homes, a sacred space. And a lot of homes don't even have a crucifix, nothing in it at all. They're beautiful, nicely decorated, but they don't have anything to show that who they are as Catholics. So that was something that we created that space. And then we led them through Lectio Divina, and started to teach them how to say the rosary, just, baby steps, 1 decade at a time. Family, that of course, that's part of the family rituals and traditions. Up on the left-hand corner there, you see the Epiphany door, the tradition of the writing of the chalk above the door. So you could have families, you could send that home to them as something that they do, and then have them bring it back, or a photo of it, and talk about their experience. And then family service. We know how important family service is. I've got the cards there, the random acts of kindness, and we'll talk more about that. Families Forming Disciples has a lot of ideas in it that you can steal. All these things that I'm talking about are in Families Forming Disciples. You don't have to do the Families Forming Disciples program, but you could go up and just steal. It's especially this first year is completely following the liturgical calendar. So just go up, grab some ideas from there. And then if I know that you all have great ideas too. So feel free at any time to send us your ideas. We'd love to hear. And I don't mean steal, because a good teacher is a good thief. So we're all stealing. It's just sharing ideas. Okay, there's a lot of stuff online now. This is another thing. You can send home a very short video and then get responses back for that. But if you've started doing these kinds of things with technology, I just encourage you to make a plan on how you can continue to do this as you're moving forward as part of your vision. And then, anything that you're doing or have been doing as with students, you can do as a family. So all of the service projects that you do as students, incorporate the families into it. I had the family program back when I was in Illinois for years, and every family did a service project, and we had hundreds of families. So the challenge was finding service projects for them to do, because there were so many, which was fabulous. It was a good problem to have. But, these projects really become part of who they are. And there was one family in particular at Christmas time, they came and worked the senior dinner, and they called the bingo numbers, they helped clean, their daughter played the violin. And then when they aged out of my program, which was confirmation, I thought that was going to be it, but they came back. They came back like year after year. So some of these families stuck with it, and they kept on doing it. And it became part of who they are, became their identity, which was a beautiful thing. It was a great problem to have. I got to look for more service projects. So anything you're doing with the kids for Advent or Lent, anything that you're creating, make it family. Just tweak it and make it family. And then there's a gazillion ways for you that you probably know more than these platforms, but there's a gazillion ways now for you to continue to stay in contact with your families. I encourage you not to completely drop the use of technology now. We're expanding into a new vision, and these have been fantastic tools. So now I'm going to hand it over to Michelle, who is going to introduce our panel to you. And everyone on the panel is doing some kind of family faith formation, but in a completely different way. Most of them are doing it in a completely different way from each other. And we just thought that it would be great for you to hear from them, to hear about their experiences. And then, of course, we're going to move into small group, because we want to have everybody have an opportunity to share their experiences as well. Michelle?
Thank you. Thank you, Patrice. And thank you, Andy. I will be, hang on, I'm just going to see if I can get there we go. On your screen on the chat function, you'll see, and you see it here on the full screen, we're going to introduce these various peoples who have done family forming disciples and have done other options for family catechesis. So it's across the board. It's not all just one program. So everybody on the panel will have 3 minutes. Please, panel people, don't be upset if I come on after 3 minutes and we have to move to the next person. So we're not trying to be rude. We're just trying to get everyone have an opportunity. So they will have an opportunity to present what they're doing in 3 minutes or less, which makes it challenging. And then we're going to move back after that into a larger discussion. So please hold any questions you may have right now, and we will try to our best to address them afterward. But right now, I want to introduce to you Lynn Langston from St. Joe's in Athens and their program Built. Okay, Lynn, you have the floor. Lynn, I think you're muted still. I don't know if, Benny, do you have everybody muted? If we can unmute Lynn, or if Lynn can unmute herself. Lynn? I don't see that you're muted, so.
She says it won't let her on the phone. She doesn't have a mic on her computer.
Oh, rats. Okay. Well, hang in there, Lynn. We're going to move on to the next person. Okay, so our next person is Robin Morgan from COCUS, Christ our King and Savior, Family Model Sacramental Prep. So Robin, if you're able to speak, you've got the floor.
Unmuted myself. Hello, everybody. I'm Robin Morgan, and I'm going to talk about using a family type model for sacramental prep. At our parish, we've been doing this now for 5 or 6 years when we prepare the families or the children for First Communion and First Reconciliation. What we have done is the children have gone to their own class, for the children, and then we've had a separate class for the parents, and we do split English versus Spanish. And both of us, both the English and the Spanish, have done a program. I think this will probably be reversed, but we've done the program Forgiven, and then the other one is Presence, which are wonderful reviews for the parents on both of those sacraments. And the parents do love the programs. The videos are very engaging, and they really do conjure up a lot of conversation. We are this year, for the first time in a long time, doing a session with the parents of the kids who are going through confirmation. And we're using the program, The Search, which is, we can get it on Formed. And as these parents are preparing their kids to go off to college, they're loving this video. So I can also highly recommend that. We also, during those classes for First Reconciliation and First Communion, we share with the parents what the children are learning in class. And we actually give them tips at every single session, how they can help their children learn these concepts, how they can put them into practice, what they can do at Mass as the children are learning. We also, you really encourage them as the primary catechist of their child too. I will say the benefits of this program have been really endless. A few of them are, these parents are in our parish, and I would imagine this is the case in a lot of parishes. The parents are very unevangelized. Most of them have not learned anything about the sacraments since they were in elementary school, or maybe even their confirmation. So it's amazing now that all these light bulbs start to go off, and they really do have the tools now to help their children understand these sacraments. They actually build confidence for their ability to pass on the faith to their children. The other thing that happens in these classes that has been very beneficial to our parish is it helps the parents make connections with each other. And many of them really haven't participated in our parish very much. And then when their children go through sacrament prep, they all come back, but they really haven't been engaged in any way. So now they build a community among themselves, which then really brings them back to Mass, because they want to see their friends who they were in class with on Wednesday night or Sunday night, or whenever it was. So we have really built a lot of community among these parents. And the parents that we did this with the very first year, which was seven or 8 years ago, their kids are now being confirmed. And it really is neat to see how much they've all sort of stuck together. Some other fruits of this program has been that the parents have become more involved in the parish. They actually they are participating as extraordinary ministers, as lectors, as greeters. Children are making friends. Our altar servers have pretty much come from these programs. So the children actually are serving more, and then the families are attending Mass more. So there has been some other benefits and some other fruits from this, but that's what we have done for sacramental prep.
Thank you so much, Robin. I appreciate that. And now we will have your cohort, Anne, also from Christ our King and Savior, for Families Forming Disciples. Anne, you're up.
Okay. I wanted to have my sign. You probably see it backwards, but it's something that we use in our classes. Hi, everybody. My name is Anne from Christ our King and Savior, as she said. And let me tell you, the lesson plans from OFD this year have been a godsend. Prior to this, we used to just do the traditional in-classroom sessions that's on Sundays for faith formation. And I was an educator for, I've been an educator for 30 years. So that was just kind of like an area of comfort. So that's what we did. And COVID hit and just blew us all up. And we had a whole paradigm shift. And we decided to do these, lessons. We're like, how are we going to be able to do them? So if it wouldn't have been for the lesson plans, it would have been extremely challenging. But we follow the lessons, and the way we choose to do them at COCAS is that our first session is in person. We have a pavilion that has about 12 picnic tables. So we sanitize, we prep everything to avoid them walking around and what have you. So when the families get there, all the materials that they need are on their tables, except they each then pick up a little family pack, and each family has their own little pack of supplies. And then they also pick up a little fellowship bag, and then they go to their picnic table, just to avoid them moving around and what have you. And then what we do is we start with the icebreaker, like I said, and that's why I had my little poster up, because it says that, for example, this week it says, if I could go any place in the world, where would it be? I'd like to go to Bora Bora. I've never been there. So, because I think the little huts are really great. So, so we have the children love being able to write on the boards, or, just discuss the different, little icebreaker, whatever, with their families, what they're going to write on there. We also then we do the prayer, and then we do our lessons together. Then I give them a little take-home bag. Sorry, these are my visual aids. This is as good as they get. They get a little take-home bag. This one was the one from when we did rosaries. And then I discuss with them, but I give them all the materials that they're going to need. This was just something we incorporated because I like to do a lot of tangible activities. So this was just a separate little pipe cleaning thing that I threw in there, which is another thing that I love about the lessons, that, I can just pull from it. Like Patrice said, I can steal or modify it or change it around. But anyway, we give them then a packet at that first session that says, this is what you're going to be doing at home for your at-home mission activity. And then they, take all that home, and then they either send me pictures that we post on social media during session 3, or, we Zoom in together and we discuss what it is that they did. And for example, again, like I said, I steal Patrice's ideas, and then sometimes we do our own spin on it. Like when we did the Lenten rocks, we were supposed to, write on it. And one of my catechists said, oh, we're going to write our different pillars, like either fasting or was fasting, prayers, or almsgiving. And she's like, oh, you're going to write on it. She goes, but you're not just going to write on it. Aren't you going to paint them too? So she had to up the ante, my overachiever, my one and only. And then, so we wound up painting the Lenten rocks. This one was for fasting. I don't know if you can see it. So I was giving up bread. And then this was for almsgiving. So we painted them, and then we wrote in the back. I know it's backwards, but we wrote in the back. And then my daughter thought this was the best thing, so she made hers. That's an avocado. She gave up avocados for Lent because she loves guacamole. So that's what we did there. But anyway, sorry. So resources, as you could tell by all the things that I've shown you, I like to use a lot of hands-on types of activities. I think the children really connect. I think the families really connect. They really enjoy, painting. We'll do watercolors. We'll, now we've just started to incorporate some music. So we've added some like singing and fellowship just based off of your lesson plans. Now when they come into the pavilion for our first session, we start with some singing, some praise and worship while they're enjoying their little fellowship snack bag. So the ideas I think are just endless. And I know I'm probably getting close to my 3 minutes, but resources I like to use. I always go to Teachers Pay Teachers. I use little Catholic kids bulletins just to, tie in with what's going on inside the church. Catholic icing. We do field trip excursions. Like when we were doing the Rosary, we went to the Heritage Purification Center. That was one of our sessions, our third session, instead of doing it Zoom, because we were Zoomed out. We decided to Zoom to the Purification Center. And that's pretty much it. I hope I don't know my time because I didn't time myself, but anyway, that's
It's okay. Anne, you're good. You're awesome. What great ideas, what great excitement that you're building. Thank you so much. We are going to, thank you, Anne. We're going to go back to Lynn Langston. Lynn, if you are able to join us now, you've got the floor. Okay, I don't think Lynn is able to. She thought she was going to be able to, but I don't hear her. Okay, so we're going to move on. Our next person is Antoinette Paragon Singh from St. Philip Benizi, and she does her family program. So Antoinette, you've got the floor.
Hi everyone. So yes, I am from St. Philip Benizi. I am not the catechist leader, parish catechist leader, but I sure do assist her. So anything she's doing, I'm very much involved. So between the catechist leader, myself, and actually 2 other persons, we do the family program, and that's twice a month that we're doing that. We meet them. All of these sessions are in Zoom. We're not doing any in-person meetings for our program. And we use a variety of tools, of course, Zoom. We have them, you do the pre-session, which is a preparation from at the end of the session, preparing them for the following month's session. And then we actually get into the material in the first session. And then when we come back, we do any homework, and we try to not name it homework because we don't want it to sound school-like. We've been very creative in post-session assignment, fun assignment. We just assign different names to it because I think homework just gives them the thing of, okay, this is schoolwork and I don't really want to do it. So we do that, and then we get into the second session where we do a bit of review and then just continue with any other areas that we have not covered in the first topic. Because while we do follow the lesson plan from the diocese, we actually have our own topics that was created, a joint creation between the Spanish team and ourselves, the English team. And we came up with topics. And on both teams, we've been very fortunate to have educators who are very familiar with all of the devices. I am not that person. I am the one that struggles with, what, you have me learning another program, because it's like, okay, I just figured out Zoom. So how am I going to do this? So while I'm Darlene's right hand, she's also my help. And we do that. But we do have an educator who has a wealth of resources at her fingertips, and she's able to use those resources to do the preparation for the sessions, where we send out some information work for them to be done. We have in session where we use multiple technology or programs to be able to provide with the material that we're trying to pass on to them. And then we do that second check-in, what we call our check-in session, but we always over plan. This is one of our challenges, I think, that we've had. We kind of over plan to present the material. And then, of course, sacrament prep is also the same thing. We meet retreats, and their retreats are 3 hours long. We pre-plan and pre-record, and everything is sent out to them. So basically, that's how we run both our programs, family program and the sacrament prep for elementary and middle schoolers.
Great. Thank you, Antoinette. And never downplay just because you're not necessarily paid staff. You are an amazing catechist, and always take that with you.
I love what I do. I love what I do.
It shows.
Yes.
So thank you so much.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you. Okay, so the next person we're going to move to is one of your cohorts, Susan Baker, and she's going to be able to discuss with us in light of families coming together with the teen years. So Susan, you have the floor. Susan, we don't hear you yet.
Okay, there we go. Sorry, I thought I hit
There
it.
you are. And you know I will shut you down at 3 minutes. You know
And
that.
I know, like at the Oscars, I'm going to get played off the stage. Yeah, we have been, as a youth group, we've been virtual since March of last year. And it has been very interesting. But one of the concerns that I had going into our sessions in the fall is how much the kids were just kind of done with Zoom, even at that point. And I didn't want to just have them log on to Zoom every Sunday and potentially have them zone out or just listen. And so we wanted to do something where there was a connection. And so we limited our Zoom sessions, but then we gave them assignments or activities to do at home. And each month they have a family project that they complete with their parents and any siblings that are in the home. And the projects are done to where at any age they can participate. For example, one of our topics was on the Trinity. And so we had them write on 3 poster boards, Father, Son, Holy Spirit, and then everyone wrote characteristics or thoughts or images or feelings that they associated with each one of those of the Trinity. And then they put them up in their house and they took pictures and they sent it to me. And it was kind of fun for them to share amongst each other their own interpretations of the Trinity. We did for this month, it was Lenten. I asked the families to do something together as a Lenten obligation, either to give up something as a family or to add something as a family. And what was really funny is the responses I got, or a lot of the parents were sending me messages, not just their kids, saying, we've never done this before, but we're going to keep doing this because this was neat to do as a family. And that was like, yes, score. And one of the other things that we've done for several years in a row, we as a confirmation program got away from service hours. What I discovered is kids were just looking for projects that they got the most hours on, as opposed to recognizing that we're called to feed the hungry, give drink to the thirsty, clothe the naked, all that stuff. They were just looking for how can I get this done the quickest? So we moved to the spiritual and corporal works of mercy. And we asked them to complete all of them and to write short reflections on each one. The part where we bring the parents in is we ask the parents to do 6 of those works of mercies with their kids. And for the parents to also write a reflection. For some of our parents that don't feel comfortable composing or writing, or they are in Spanish, the kids will write it for the parent. But it allows the parents to be involved in that service project and the confirmation process as well, using their own gifts and talents. And then the final thing that we do during the summer youth group program, we have a Saturday retreat day, and the first part of the day is on scripture with the kids. The last part of the day, the parents come and we do several service projects that benefit our parish. And it helps bring, again, parents into service, into the faith formation process with their kids. But we also do projects for various ministries. So it exposes parents and families to the different ministries in our parish that potentially they may want to get involved in the future. And so those are the things that we've done. It encourages the families, 1, to talk to each other about their faith, and 2, some of the projects we've asked them, they've had to carve out some time in their schedule as a family to look at their faith and talk about their faith. And that's been kind of fun to watch the parents make that time to do that with their kids. So that's what we've done with the high schoolers.
Susan, thank you, because that's been a piece that we've all, I think, struggled with, is how do we incorporate that when teens supposedly don't want to be around their parents, or parents don't want to be around their teens, sometimes more importantly, and how to foster or begin to foster that kind of atmosphere. So thank you for that. So, okay. Tina Guyden from Peter and Paul, you are up next. You have the floor. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. So we are using Families Forming Disciples. Thank you very much. Because I became DRE last July and had less than a clue. I just know that what we were doing was what my kids went through, and drop off Sunday school reaped. So grateful for Families Forming Disciples. We are a small but loyal group who's doing it. I have a 1st grade family, a 2nd grade family, a 6th and 8th grade family, and a 4th and 9th grade family, out of all of the families that were doing something, I guess, March 8th weekend. I think they're all still in that pause mode. And be braced for the screams from Decatur when I inform them that they have no choice but to be with me and the rest of the catechists in September. We're all virtual, and we will probably be virtual again in the fall just because of the space that we share with the school. And it has been very, I guess, empowering for the catechist. I have 2 catechists who help me with Families Forming Disciples. I help another catechist with our separate First Communion and First Reconciliation prep, and 2 other catechists do confirmation. And it has really made us have to be very honest and vulnerable about our particular faith journeys. And that helps the parents who are very reluctant. They're worse than the kids about wanting to be on the camera. So it's a lot of voiceover action. I don't allow that either, because if I got to be seen, you got to be seen. So it has been very empowering, and the catechists are very open about the fact that, like when we're talking about Lenten practices this month, that they grew up without that and having to learn to do that, making a personal prayer space. So it's been very good for all of us. I'm not as cool as Anne because I'm not artsy or craftsy, but when I knew that I was going to be tasked with this, I went to Oriental Trading and got cute little tote bags with crosses on them. And we got boxes of crucifixes, and we've got rosaries for the families. And I gave out to the families at the beginning, here's your bag. So you can't say that you don't have the stuff. I've given you the hardest stuff to find. Go to the dollar store and get your other stuff if you so inclined. They didn't do a whole bunch of it because, again, having to do it is hard. They're not used to that. But them making their prayer spaces and opening the Bibles with their babies, totally my jam. Totally my jam. So we are firmly going to be doing this in the fall. And I am just pray that my pulpit pitch to the parents is loving and ministerial and not totally telling them all off, because I don't have any problem with that at all. 4 kids, babies, and I did it pregnant. So no excuses, no whatever. And that's all I got. Thank you.
Tina, that's awesome. And I have heard your pulpit pitches, and they are spot on. And because you relate and you make people laugh, and they just have to listen. So that's the only thing. So thank you very much for your time. I love you. Okay, so our next person up is Rosemary Potts from St. Peter Chanel, and they have a different families catechesis program. So Rosemary, you have the floor.
Hi, everybody. We started formal family faith formation 4 years ago. We started it and we called it GIFT, Growing in Faith Together. And Michelle may have to cut me off because I've met with them before, and they kind of know how passionate I am about this. But I want to talk a little bit about what Patrice said and the those 4 areas that John Roberto mentions: the conversations, the rituals and traditions, the prayer. When we start GIFT every year, we have a session for the parents, why we're doing it and why this will not look the same. Many parents enter into this, and our approach was, you're not getting a textbook, you're not getting worksheets. They envision this, as we've all said, as I'm just supposed to teach my child now, as opposed to a catechist teaching my child. Our approach is we try not to use those terms, and there is a big difference between teaching your child and accompanying your child in this experience. So we, like a few of them have said, we do not use school terms. All of the things we do with our families are called explorations. We explore the Trinity, we explore, and we did the Trinity too, Susan, same way. We explore all of the topics. And so when we explore, the families are doing it together. For the parents, it's kind of wetting their whistle. So sometimes when they say, I don't know what to say, we always include a parent support page. And again, we don't say this, parents, this is how you're to teach your kids. We say this is support for you. And we encourage you to look at this parent support material ahead of time. And that's where the technology comes in. The technology comes in through the short videos. You had Catholic Central up there. They're a hoot and a half, those two. So it makes it not seem so daunting. And what we do with that is a couple people have talked about what they have their families submit. So pre-COVID, we got together once a month as families. When we talk about how to incorporate the youth, the first year we did it, we only had elementary. Those families at the end of that year said, you have to do this for our middle schoolers. Our middle schoolers want to be with us. So what we have grown into is our families come, we start to look at ways to engage the middle schoolers, kind of like we all do with VBS, right? Middle schoolers and high schoolers, take care of the littles. They do some of those activities with the littles. Then if we break out on those particular sessions, we have an opportunity to do a teen group for a little bit of time that, again, wets their whistle, wets the kids' whistle, that if we do then have something in a youth ministry format, they're more inclined to do it because we've done it at a small scale. One of the things we did this year, or let me go back real quick. Sorry, Michelle, I know I'm feeling the Oscars here. We started the first year, the first thing they did at home for their first month was to do a Catholic collage. We wanted them to go around their house as a family and find those things that reminded them of their faith, put it on a table, take a big picture of it. There were two reasons for that. One, for them to know that they have faith in their home, but two, for us to know what was in their house and what wasn't. And as someone said, if I didn't see a whole lot of crucifixes, what was going in their kit the next month was a crucifix. This month, we're focusing on scripture. And like Families Forming Disciples, we do have a theme every year. The first year was our Catholic identity. The second year was the Mass. Last year was the sacraments. This year was who was Jesus. Next year, what a surprise. And we didn't even know this. Ours is going to be scripture. So, but one of the things we did, we also do what we call a cheerleader email every single Saturday that has, first, it's a little reminder of what they're supposed to be doing that week. Secondly, it always has a bonus feature. And sometimes it's a parenting article. Sometimes it's a prayer. Sometimes it's something sometimes it's a Father Mike video he has a great video on being overwhelmed. So we throw that in there. But then what we did at Christmas, because of course, Christmas is a little rough time, we did a packet that they took home with of 12 ways for the 12 days of Christmas. And we pulled a little Matthew Kelly kind of thing where we set up a constant contact that every single day for 12 days at 8 a.m., they got the picture of what they were supposed to do from the kit and what that day was in the season of Christmas. So we're doing the same thing for Holy Week, because Holy Week for us is the week before spring break. So we are doing Holy Week in a box, and it's a box and it's a peg doll and it's a few other things. They all fit in this box. And there's a cute little prayer reflection for every day. So starting on Palm Sunday for every single day of Holy Week at 8 a.m., every family is going to get a picture of what their box is supposed to look like, and the scripture verse and the family question for the day. If they do it once or twice, they've probably done more than they did when they dropped off their kids in faith formation in the classroom. Michelle, am I out of time?
Oh, yeah, you're out of time.
But can I add one thing, Rosemary? I think this is important. Can you just mention the virtual binder that
Yes.
you use to get the information to people?
Okay, so we found this platform called Live Binders. And Live Binders is a platform that you do a link. It looks like a binder. So what happens is when the parents click it on, tabs show up at the top. So we have program information. So we always have our calendar. We have what we're doing that month. And then we have our topics for each week. Our demographic was not going to work to meet as a Zoom every week or every other week. That is not, and that is one of the most important things I have to say about family faith formation. You got to know your demographic. You got to know what your families are, because our families are different than than other churches. So you got to know what you are, and you got to know what you can do. So ours were every week they do a topic, but they don't have to do it that week. It's there for them. We put it out the first of every month. In fact, I have my whole team out there packing the kits, the 300 kits. Monsignor always says, it's the bag ladies this week. And yep, it's the bag ladies this week, because we're passing out the kits and we're releasing the binder for the month. Some people this year have sent us wonderful notes. It's all wonderful. We got socked with COVID. My kids got sick, the quarantine, we're getting to it. It's always there for them to use. And like I said, we call them explorations. We have the reflections in there. The reflections always have a parent submission, something that parents have to do. So, because I say, look, if you're going to sit here and make your child talk about something or else, you need to own it yourself. That's part of those conversations. And I will shut up now because Andy's laughing because
I forgot my shepherd's crook. I need to go to one of the bishops and get one of their.
Yeah.
No, but all this information is so amazing. And Elaine, thank you for pointing that out, because that live binder is cool. If you could post a link to that, Rosemary,
Sure,
that would be awesome. Okay.
Okay.
Well, hang on. We're moving on to our next person, Sheila Murray with Transfiguration. Sheila, you have the floor.
Good morning. We are also using the Families Forming Disciples program, which honestly has been a blessing to our parish this year. So thank you. We are doing it in a virtual setting. We meet virtually every other week. We are keeping our group sizes small. One thing that I was intentional about when I paired families together was keeping parents with like demographic and age of their children together. So if we have families that are predominantly intermediate age grades, those families are coupled together. And those with primary age children, those are coupled together as well. And then we've got families who have children all across the board, and they are tried to put those together as well. We try to keep them about 6 families with 1 catechist. And oftentimes the catechist is a parent of one of the families, which I think those groups, that accompaniment, is really noticeable in those groups, because the parents are there learning with the other parents as well. One thing that we do, we use the PowerPoints and the home missions that you're creating, but I do modify them. A lot of our parents and families are still not back in Mass. So as often as I can, I try to include pictures from our parish. So like the Holy Family lesson, I put a picture of our Holy Family statue that we have in our narthex. Just so there's that touch point, even though you're not coming to Mass, this is still our parish home, and we want to bring it into your home through those images as much as we can. We also I modify the home missions to include activities or focuses that our parishes are working on during that time, such as for Holy Week, our Holy Week mission, we're asking the families to create a luminary to help light the sidewalk on Holy Thursday evening for the Mass. That is part of their mission for that. It's not the whole mission, it is added to. But what they're doing is creating something for our worship space as well. One thing we've learned is the families are really loving the small faith sharing group style feel of their virtual sessions. The ability for families to kind of mute themselves and talk about the topic alone as a family and then share with the whole group has given them the opportunity to connect with new people they may not have known before, or connect in a new way with their own family. Another thing it has brought to our groups is a cultural awareness. We have a lot of cultural diversity in our parish. And when families are talking about their own family traditions and then sharing them with the whole group, we're just in some of the groups that I participate in, I've learned about traditions that parents grew up with in Poland or grew up with in Colombia. And you hear the similarity in the traditions, but yet they're so culturally diverse and beautiful. And the parents are really learning a lot about our worldwide church, just in that sharing of their cultural experiences, which has been a lot of fun. We're also seeing a lot more dads participate in faith formation. I don't know if you guys are seeing that with family formation, but when we just had the on-site program for elementary, we may have had a couple of dads participate as carpool guys, but not necessarily as much in the classroom. By like high school, we would see more dads participate, right? But with the families forming disciples, a lot of the children, even the elementary children, are accompanied by their mom and dad, or whichever parent is home at the time, right? And what I'm starting to notice is I'm getting more dads who are willing to substitute as the catechist for a weekend, or just participate on a regular basis because they're enjoying their time learning about the faith with their children. I've also heard from a lot of parents that they are learning about the faith through their children's eyes again, which I think is a really neat concept, having those conversations with your child and like, I never thought of it like that, but my child did. And what does that communicate to me? So it's just a really neat thing for the parents to experience. I'm also hearing that parents are learning new ways to pray daily with their children, which is a huge part of faith sharing. I have a person who helps me every year with Vacation Bible School, and I was talking to her the other day, and she said, before this program, like we did prayer before meals and on special days, but now we start together every day as a family with prayer. And it's just a new thing they've started doing because of the family forming disciples home missions. They talk about that, not just on a day when they do their home mission, but they do it throughout a week. So they're talking about their faith in relation to the class, which is also liturgical year based, which is wonderful because they're incorporating what's going on at Mass as well as class and talking about it together as a family. I
Sheila?
think that's most of what I have. We do intend to continue using this program next year. What we would like to make a change to is not just offering it virtually, but offering an on-site option as well. So we're crossing our fingers. I'm not using the word hope anymore because I'm tired of people telling me to be hopeful. So I'm crossing my fingers and praying a lot that we will be able to have on-site gatherings next year.
Thank you, Sheila. And we are all praying the same thing, I'm sure. But I think, thank you for bringing up that option or that opinion about the fathers being more involved, because I think we're seeing that. And that in and of itself is a major win as far as we are all concerned, because that is, as we know with the Pew Research, that's the determining factor a lot of times in them continuing to be Catholic. So guys, it's on your shoulder. Andy, I'm looking at you. You're doing a great job. Okay, we're going to try one more time. Thank you, Sheila, so much. I think Lynn may be able to join us. We're going to give her one more option, see if her microphone will work. So Lynn, if you're there.
Can you hear me this time?
Oh, good.
Goodness
Welcome, Lynn.
sakes. All right. Sorry for all the technical difficulties. I'm from St. Joe's, Athens, and we started a program that we called Built. And we decided that we needed to build up our faith community. So we brainstormed together and we decided to have a huge dinner party with music and cocktails and kids games and the entire shebang. So I looked at form and I found some materials that we wanted to use. Thanks, Annie. And we decided to start with the video series that they called Presence. It was all about the Eucharist. So we got our team together. We recruited the Knights of Columbus and the Columbiettes to put together a dinner for us. We got out the linen tablecloths, the napkins, the whole 9 yards, set up round tables through our gym, invited everybody to come, no fee, no donation asked for, no nothing, just come. And we had a little cocktail party for the grown-ups, and for the children, we put out games. We put out a face painter and hula hoops and jump ropes and all those kinds of things. And then we called everybody's attention and they all came down and had dinner and sat at tables with either their friends or new people, depending on who they came with. And we also had some starter questions on the table. Once everybody was done eating dinner, we passed out dessert, and at the same time, we started the video series. So the ones we picked on form had questions attached, plus we also made up some extra questions. So we showed the video, stopped the film, had them do the questions at the table, showed the rest of the video, and so on. And then at the end, one of the priests got up and gave a real brief teaching moment about whatever the topic was in that video. The form videos we chose always had 6, 8, 10 different sessions to follow. So we challenged the families to take it home and do a DIY thing, do it yourself, and do the next series, the next session of the series at home over dinner and dessert with their families as well. It was very successful. We got to our third one before COVID slapped us in the face, and it all, of course, came to a screeching halt. But we are making plans now, once the weather breaks, to try to bring it back outside. And instead of providing dinner, have everybody bring their dinner. But if you are interested in something like that, Formed is a great resource because of the way a lot of their programs are laid out. 25, 30-minute videos, 6 to 10 sessions each. So it really works nice to do an ongoing program. I think I covered everything I wanted to tell you. So yeah, thanks for having me.
Lynn, thank you so much. And thank you for persevering and hanging with us and finding a way to make it work. So I really appreciate that. So panel, complete panel, thank you for all your input, all your amazing ideas. And so what we want to do now is to go ahead and open up the floor, take a minute, look at the chat that's been going back and forth, everybody, for some things that have been discussed. And we're going to give it about 10, 15 minutes, Andy, I think is right, for a large group discussion. And so whoever has something they'd like to say, jump in. So I want again to thank everybody as we come into a wrap up portion of this meeting. Thank you for taking those 2 hours to be with us. It's important. We're going to gather all this stuff. The recording will be made public and posted on the website as soon as we can. We'll have detailed notes that can go with it, so that if you can, if you were a small group leader, if you could email me highlights in addition to what we're recording, I would be most appreciative, whoever is your group leader from your small group. But I'm going to ask since ours is up first, I'm going to ask Rhonda to please give us a brief report. We've got about 6 minutes before I have to do a prayer. So Rhonda, can you give us a brief highlight from our room?
I'll be quick. We talked about as far as how we innovate, we had to roll with it. We all talked about how making plans and them changing was a big part of it, and we had to learn to adjust and roll with it. Some surprises were not many families were engaged, and we need to reach out to those families that are not engaged at all. And I mentioned that we are not doing a family model right now, but I hope to incorporate at least a monthly or something like that, and small steps to the family faith formation is needed. One of our members said that they have not lost a lot of people as far as coming to Mass and faith formation. So that was a kind of a surprise as well, because some of us have lost. a big question is, how do we evangelize and reach out to those that are not engaged to get them back? Technology is a big part of it. And a lot of us are using some of the recommendations. One person mentioned that they've lost more Hispanic families as far as being engaged over Zoom than they have the English speaking families. And then we talked about Holy Week. Is any differences going on? Michelle did mention that a concern was the candles and blowing them out at the vigil. So we may not want to do that. For me personally at St. Gabriel, we've just mentioned that things are going to be simple this year, the simple form. And as far as personally, or outside of faith formation, many staffs are doing the consecration to St. Joseph, and me at St. Gabriel, we're doing a Bible study as a staff. And we talked about VBS. Many are not doing a VBS. Many of us are unsure. So that's kind of hitting the highlights of what we covered.
Thanks, Rhonda. Okay, and I don't know who was spokesperson for another group, but if you could go ahead and take the floor, and let's hear from you.
I'll jump in here, Michelle, on my group. I won't put Kelly Peffer on the spot, but if she wants to jump in, feel free. I mean, we didn't have time to talk about everything, but we did talk about how this year we learned a lot about technology, about how to use it, even just where to get it, how to kind of conceive about, thinking about how to make it helpful. And that seems to be a pretty consistent message in terms of trying to utilize it, continuing to utilize it over the next year. One of the silver linings was the engagement of parents, and whether or not somebody had a more intentional kind of new family faith formation approach, or just was adapting youth ministry and reaching out more online and virtual, that necessarily brought more parents into it, and where they've really seen changes happening. So it's been a lot of fruits from COVID from this year in terms of seeing what we're seeing in families and in homes. So there's a lot more I could share, but I'll email it to you. And I just want to encourage everybody, if you have other ideas about topics that we should discuss in terms of just these PCL meetings, and as we're moving forward, and whether large group, small group discussion, let us know, email us, put it in the chat. We'll capture all of that, and this will be helpful as we're moving forward. Thanks.
Thanks, Andy. And Annie from COCUS, can you go next?
Yeah, I got nominated as a Room 6 spokesperson, but anyway, we all decided, I think, equally that we learned via swimming by being thrown into the ocean pretty much for the whole COVID. We wound up, this was just a huge adjustment for all of us, but we kind of just learned as we went along. And guess what? I think we all persevered, right? We survived. We're all still standing. We maybe did have done things differently. With regards to technology for next year, I think we all agreed that maybe we were using way too little technology before. And, we're going to keep incorporating these technology strategies, whether it be Cahoots or the virtual missions, retreats, those types of things, Flipgrid, the life binders that you guys talked about, and a lot of publishers have also made things virtually, so that's helped us as well. Engaging our families with sacramental prep. I'll just use my example because I can't remember the other ones, but we're just kind of doing similar things. We're trying to do some in-person sessions and then combine them with, some virtual sessions, and, but just try to, these little bags with all the supplies, I think, are huge. And I think all of them, at least everyone in our group, they're doing some type of take home or send home, or those types of things. And then for Holy Week, I don't know, does anybody else from our group want to jump in? We talked about doing Stations of the Cross outside. They said Autumn's has a great little Stations of the Cross booklet. And anyone else from Group 6 want to jump in? Joyce? You're muted. No.
Well, Sheila talked about the luminaries that the families were making.
Oh, that's right.
They could pick up bags. And then I heard, I don't know if it's St. Monica or St. Benedict, but they did a prayer cross. So people we did it like pretty much contactless. I'm cutting out ribbon that you write your prayer and then you attach it to chicken wire wrapped around the cross. And then we'll burn all those prayers at the Easter fire, and the Ladies Auxiliary has agreed to replace it with flowers, that all of our prayers were lifted up to God and heard and returned with love. So that's one other thing that we're doing. And just trying to, the liturgies speak to themselves. I guess the big challenge is Sheila's making take-home Holy Week bags. I think a lot of people talked about that. But for the people who can't come back, and we're at a place where, we're pretty much full at all of our masses, being at 25% capacity. So like, how do we respond to that? How do we engage the people who are at home that still don't feel safe to come back? So just, social media, sending home stuff to people, drive by, pick up stuff, to keep them connected and know that they're loved and missed, and we can't wait to see them.
Great.
That is a great, and just one other point that I just piggybacking off of the social media. If you go back, and probably all of you guys were like me, last year we were in COVID. So we wound up finding a bunch of resources that we had been sending out for the families to actually do at home, recreate the Last Supper, at home, painting stained glass windows at your home or at the church, just those types of making like an Easter snack or resurrection rolls. There's lots of fun things that the families can do at home to reinforce. And then you can just, send home the ideas virtually or make packets for them. That's it.
Great. Thanks, Annie. Elaine, would you mind speaking for your group?
Yeah, just a couple of things. Sandy Major was in our group, so I asked her to go ahead and say what she was going to say to the large group. And basically, one of the things is people have talked about the decrease in the number of catechists that they have. And so Sandy said what she wanted to mention is that she points out there's a big difference to her catechist between being a teacher and being a catechist. And a teacher imparts knowledge, a catechist, I don't remember the word you used, but basically imparts their heart. So, and for those of us that are in youth ministry, we know that whole head knowledge versus heart knowledge and connecting the two. So we really didn't go by the questions that were in there because we started talking about, and it led to everything. Because there have been a decrease in the number of catechists or volunteers that many of the parishes have had, it has led to more engagement of the families. So, and most of the people in our small group had been doing some type of family engagement for a sacramental prep anyway, having the parents be a part of whatever it is they're doing. I'm trying to think of the last thing. We didn't get to the last question. So yeah, so that's what we talked about. It was a lot about making your parents, empowering your parents for them to understand that they can be catechists just because they need to share what's in their heart and that they will learn the faith with their kids together.
Great. Thank you, Elaine. Mary Beth, we're over time a little bit, but I do want to hear from each small group if that's at all possible, if you could hang with us, and then we'll close in prayer. Mary Beth, can you talk about your small group? You're muted, Mary Beth.
Whoops,
there you go.
There I am. Okay, sorry. We were really good talkers and we just did one question and we ran out of time, but we had some good discussions and maybe we touched on some of the other questions unknowingly, but many of us talked about just like how we've had to be super flexible during this time. Some of our members had other challenges like being new to the DRE position, having, starting from nothing, but that might have also been a benefit because could reinvent things really when we started over. Being flexible as far as technology, pushing ourselves out of the comfort zone, and that how beneficial that's been, that many of us are resistant and kind of stick to the old ways, but that as we were pushed to try new things to engage our families, it's been very beneficial. Let's see. Several people were talking about less catechists, challenge of less people in the program sometimes. enjoying the resources that we have from the Archdiocese, especially the meetings we've been having. So y'all are awesome. We appreciate it. Yeah, that's pretty much it. You know, we had a lot, but I'll just keep it brief.
Thank you, Mary Beth. And I don't have names for other groups, so somebody else from another group want to chime in? I think we've got 4 other groups that need to speak briefly.
Speak for group 4. We had a lot of commonality in the sense of being flexible, that the parents liked having options, that we weren't just forcing them to have only in person or only online. That came up a lot. And meeting people where they're at. I know that Victoria had mentioned that even though the parents weren't coming in person, or to Mass, I should say, that she said, well, remember when they got baptized, or like find other ways like to reach out to them. So just finding ways to meet people where they're at, so that they just give a reason to have them be engaged. And something I forgot to say actually is we offered once a month a in-person thing in lieu of class. So like we had an adoration night one night that parents could get credit for and just give us a reflection. And that was instead of having classes that day. And another time we had an outdoor Mass, and that was instead of having classes, just give us a reflection that day. And another time we had a Mass just for faith formation families, and the homily was geared toward that. So we just said instead of class, that's going to be class that day. So some kids who don't go to Mass got to go to Mass that day.
That's great.
So
Thank you, Amy.
That's it.
Great. Who else that we need to hear from, please?
I'll speak for group 7. We were small but mighty. What everybody was saying was that we all did whatever we needed to make it happen. A combination of virtual, we all grew in our understanding of technology. We very much all experienced what you said about the difference between a teacher and a catechist. Lots of us were overwhelmed at times, just, you know, we had Adolfo was in our group. He's just recovering from COVID, and we all pray for you, Adolfo. And I think we were all surprised by the way that families did hang on. Danny with the youth ministry, he said his teens are there strong, but he also, Danny, you ought to go to Hollywood, because not only would the walk do you good, but also the, I'm kidding, but he said he really had to find unique ways to engage the teens and through technology, because their program was all virtual. And they're just trying, our group is just all trying to respond to the needs of their particular parish, English and Spanish. And if I missed anything, feel free, my group, anybody, just to add.
Thank you. So does anybody else? I think we may have 2 more groups to check in with. Okay, hearing none at this point, but I want to give a special shout out to those people who were willing to come on board with us and act as our panel to start this discussion. Oh, hey, you've got a reaction down there, guys. You could all applaud on your screen. Look at that, see? So thank you again for taking this time. We're going to close in a brief prayer, and I want you to do me a favor. Everybody unmute yourself, and we're going to do a glory be, because all our voices raised to heaven. It may sound like a cacophony, but it's going to be a beautiful thing. This will be recorded. Andy, do you have anything last before we pray?
Just thank you, everybody. Thanks for your time. Thanks for all your sacrifices. And this is super helpful for us too, as we move forward here in formation and discipleship. So we're praying for you. Please keep us in prayers as well.
Yeah. And at least we're not singing happy birthday.
That's true. So praying for a fruitful Lent, but let's end this with a glory be in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Glory be to the Father and to the Son and to the Holy Spirit, as it was in the beginning, and is now, and ever shall be. Amen. Amen. Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Amen. Fruitful Lent. Thank you, guys. We'll see you on the 19th for our
Same to you.
retreat. We're all going to be ready for that. So thank you so much,
Amen.
guys.
Bye, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Bye.
God bless
Bye.
everybody.